Testifying here today. I'm Randy Urban. I'm the chair of the Ethics Commission, and I'd like to introduce to you J.R. Johnson, our executive director, to give a brief summary of our budget proposal and the exceptional items not in the base bill.
Thank you, Vice Chair, members. I'm sensitive to the fact that I'm the only thing standing in the way of today's hearing being over, so I'll try to be quick. But since I'm new around here, let me start with a quick personal note. I'm a private sector guy. I've spent the bulk of my career practicing law with two big law firms, including 7 years at McCool-Smith, which I think is a name y'all heard earlier this week in the context of the discussion with the Office of Attorney General. I joined the TEC because I love Texas and I wanted the opportunity to serve the people of Texas. This seemed like the right opportunity for me, but I say that because it explains why I have such tremendous respect for everyone under the TEC's jurisdiction, because I know on a personal level that every candidate, office holder, public servant, and advocate has sacrificed some combination of money, time, peace, sleep, sometimes even personal safety to try to improve things for their community. So I was a brand new executive director when we were here 2 years ago. But I am very proud of the progress the TEC has made since then. It is a leaner, more efficient, more effective, more responsive, more compassionate agency than it was. Some of that is due to better use of technology, but that's not all of it. For example, average complaint resolution time is 4 times faster than it was a few biennia ago. And much of that progress is because the TEC offers speedy, no fault, no penalty, confidential resolutions for many low-level violations, particularly for first-time offenders. The TEC uses those cases as opportunities to educate, not to punish. And in fact, over 90% of the complaints the TEC receives are either dismissed or resolved without any penalty. And that's the work of the TEC that so often goes unseen because of the strict confidentiality laws that apply to its enforcement process. You and the public usually only hear about the small minority of cases where a violation is found and a penalty is warranted. But if you turn to pages 3 and 4 of my presentation, you'll see that demands on the TEC have gone up in just about every area. There's been a 16% increase in filers. That's over 10,000 filers with the TEC now that the TEC must track and notify of their filing obligations. In the same period of time, there's been a 62% increase in volume to our legal helpline, over 7,000 such calls in 2024 alone. And then most striking of all maybe is a 175% increase in the number of complaints filed with the commission over the last 5 years. 575 complaints alone in 2024, that's about a 50% jump year over year. Now, all those complaints are processed by our legal team of 5 enforcement attorneys. We're a small agency, 27 FTEs, fewer than just about any time in recent history. Beyond all that, Sunset has some great recommendations on how the TEC can be even better, but several of them are going to require resources, particularly some major changes to the electronic filing system, and specifically more FTEs to answer the TEC's phone lines. Those circumstances have shaped our exceptional item requests. First, the agency is seeking 6 new employees, including 1 attorney just to help us handle that increased volume of complaints, but the other 5 are directly related to Sunset's recommendations, including someone to help the TEC improve its electronic filing system, a rules attorney to help with Sunset's legal recommendations, and 3 customer service employees to help with the phones and written legal guidance. So that's a receptionist, an IT support specialist, and another attorney for our legal helpline. Second, the TEC is seeking funding to continue improving its electronic filing system and website. That includes a few new dollars to continue the work that's already underway, including a smarter, more automated filing system that does more work not only for the TEC but for filers, and a better website with easier to find guidance and data. But it also includes a rider that's recommended by the Sunset Commission that would allow the TEC to use its anticipated lapses for additional IT improvements. And third and finally, you've already heard a little bit about it earlier today from the Facilities Commission, but the Ethics Commission is one of those agencies that's been asked to vacate the Sam Houston building. Our understanding is that that funding is being requested by the Facilities Commission and will be given to the Facilities Commission. That's the Ethics Commission's preference. So we don't have the expertise to know what it costs or to manage that money. But I did want to mention just one thing about it, which is that while the Facilities Commission has identified a space in the new Capitol Mall, the Barbara Jordan Building, and we're thrilled to be able to stay so close to the Capitol. We think that's important given the area of law we administer. It's a much smaller space, about 40% smaller. And while that's sufficient to cover our current headcount, that may change if the agency is awarded the FTEs it's requesting this session. So I just ask you to keep that in mind. But in conclusion, I just want to thank you not only for your time and attention today, but obviously for the hard work that went into this bill and the continued support you've shown the TEC. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to mention one more exceptional item.
Sure.
It has to do with his salary, so he didn't want to say it. To reclassify the executive director to Group 5, and that is a recommendation of the state auditor to do that, and also to increase the salary of the general counsel. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Chair.
Senator Campbell. And then Senator Hall, I see you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Does the Texas Ethics Commission primarily just take care of campaign or elected official violations? Do we have ethics applied to anything else?
The campaign finance laws do apply to political committees, and also
For the scope of the TEC, is it more than just campaign?
it's campaign finance, it's the lobby law, and it's the personal financial disclosure law.
Or elected officials or those seeking a public position?
That's right, Senator.
Okay. And in the last 2 years, how much has the Ethics Commission received in campaign fines? You fine them, how much have you gotten as a result of the fines?
I think it's important to talk about, there's sort of two different enforcement processes at the commission.
I'm not asking about the enforcement processes yet.
Sure.
I'm asking about the dollar value. How much have you received? And you fine them, and whoever you fine is supposed to pay the fine. How much have you received in fines in the last 2 years?
Well, that's what I was saying, is that the large majority of the penalties assessed by the commission are statutorily set for just missing deadlines. And on an average year, the commission assesses approximately $1 million worth of those statutorily set fines for missing deadlines. It then has a process for reducing and waiving those fines. And on a typical year, the commission waives about half of that amount that's set by statute through a process of coming before the commission. So now we're talking about $500,000 of fines assessed. Then about, I think it's about 15% of that is voluntarily paid.
What percent is involuntarily paid?
Well, everything that isn't paid is referred to the Office of Attorney General, as all agencies refer their state.
So I would,
and
and you don't have an enforcement, you can't make anybody pay.
That's correct.
So, first of all, I think we all could agree that the Office of Attorney General or Inspector General, you said Attorney.
Attorney General.
Yeah, the Office of Attorney General has a lot more on their plate than going around trying to recover fines. So you don't, and in Sunset, it was recommended that, there were recommendations for enforcement, correct?
That's correct.
So has anything been put in rule for how you're going to enforce it? Is there any teeth behind any enforcement rules you would have?
Well, my chair is reminding me, just to clarify, that all revenues collected by the Ethics Commission go to GR, not to the Ethics Commission.
Okay.
But I just
Well, I did, yes, and that's not a question I asked.
beyond
I
that
wanted to know
clarification, yes.
Enforcement.
Generally speaking, the state agencies don't have independent authority
So you don't have independent
to collect state
enforcement
debt.
rule, or nothing's in rule or statute. We actually have, not any senators, but there's actually an elected official who owes some upwards of $70,000 in fines.
That's correct.
Okay, and I'm not putting anybody on the spot, but have you thought about anything like, and what would you need if somebody owes a fine, they haven't paid it, after you've waived it, shown grace, mercy, whatever you want to call it, that they cannot get a driver's license, they cannot get an alcohol license to open a restaurant. that they can't get a license. They can't get a library card.
That's for y'all to decide.
Okay, I just wanted to know where.
Yeah.
could
Y'all have to
badge
pass a
for
bill to do that. We can't do that unilaterally.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Senator Hall.
Just the title of the agency alone has a rather emotional word in it, in ethics. And whether you're a day late with filing or you steal money from your campaign, they're both called an ethics violation. You have any suggestions on how to be a bit more reasonable in identifying an error that's made as opposed to I'll call it criminal intent or a true ethical thing that was done as opposed to just an old mistake? Because either one of them get tagged with the same, they've got an ethics violation. Oh, you said they got 3 ethics violations. Well, over a 10-year period, they were a day late filing. No different. Any suggestions on what could be done, and can you do it, or is that going to take legislature?
Well, as far as the name is concerned, it's in the Constitution. So we can't do that on our own either.
No, the name. I'm okay with
Right.
the name.
Okay, but as far as the other, we're doing the best we can to try to dispose of what I would call the routine errors, without criminal intent or anything like that, without fine in a non-public way. Unfortunately, these minimum penalties are set by statute. And a lot of these, if y'all wanted to reduce those, that'd be completely up to y'all, because we have a $500 base and we can't really do anything about that without legislative action. But we try to do the best we can through the waiver process and through the enforcement process. But we agree with you 100%, Senator Hall, that there are some, what we want to get the bad guys, and not the ones that are by clerical error or some honest mistake or a day late or like misreport something.
Well, I mean, is that going to make legislation to say someone submits it's a late filing? It's just called a late filing instead of being called an ethics violation.
That's already the case with the late filings. There are a few different orders that come out of the commission. I mean, in our sworn complaint process, for example, those can be resolved by something called an assurance of voluntary compliance, which is typically a confidential resolution. Then there's a public order that finds a violation. So that's already kind of bifurcated in our sworn complaint process. The other thing you're talking about is just the late filing fines. Again, that's, as the chair mentioned, those are set by statute. And all a violator gets in response to that is neither one of those orders I mentioned, just a letter saying, you missed the deadline, this fine is set by statute, here's the process you could use for requesting a waiver or reduction of that fine with the Ethics Commission.
And it doesn't go into any kind of a permanent record as being identified as an ethics violation.
Not on the Ethics Commission's part, no.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's all the questions we have. Thank you all very much for being here. Members, that concludes all the agencies on the agenda for today. We do have 4 cards for public testimony, those who wish to offer.